You sit down at your desk every morning, write out 10 things you need to get done, and by the end of the day you check off 8 of them. You probably think that means you had a productive day. It is not lasting progress. It is not real change. It is just checking boxes to feel busy. Most people assume that prioritizing one daily task is just an excuse to work less. They think if they only focus on one thing, they will fall behind on other responsibilities. They think more tasks equal more progress, and that any day with fewer than 5 completed items is a wasted day. Doing one must-do thing a day is not about working less. It is about working on the right thing, every single day, without exception. Busy does not equal effective. Most busy people spend all day on tasks that do not move their long-term goals forward. The only thing that changes your life over time is consistent action on the one thing that matters most. When you finish your one must-do thing every day, you do not just get that task done. You build trust that you will do what you say you are going to do. Over time, that trust changes how you see yourself. That change is what creates real, lasting progress in your life. Most existing guides about this idea never answer the questions people actually have. We will cover every question that has been left unaddressed, so you can follow this rule without quitting midway. The first unaddressed question is how to adjust the difficulty of your task when you are not feeling well. If you set a must-do of running 5 miles every day, and you wake up with a cold, you do not have to skip the task entirely. You can adjust it to putting on your shoes and walking around the block once. That counts as complete. If you are exhausted after a 12-hour workday, and your must-do is writing 1,000 words, you can adjust it to writing 100 words. That counts as complete. The goal is not to hit a fixed number every day. The goal is to keep the streak of completing at least one must-do going. Any completed task, no matter how small, keeps your streak intact. The second unaddressed question is what to do when your fixed must-do conflicts with a sudden important event. If your must-do is going to the gym for an hour after work, and your family member has a sudden medical emergency that requires you to take them to the hospital, what do you do? The rule is simple. The sudden important event becomes your new must-do for the day. Completing that counts as finishing your must-do. If the emergency takes all day and you have no time for anything else, that is still a completed day. You do not need to cram your original task in after the emergency. You do not need to feel guilty for breaking your streak. Your streak stays intact because you completed the most important must-do of the day. If the conflict is not an emergency and you just have extra work that takes all day, you can shrink your original must-do to the smallest possible version. If you were supposed to go to the gym, doing 5 bodyweight squats before bed counts as complete. This keeps your streak going without forcing you to neglect more important things. The third unaddressed question is how to balance finishing the task and doing it well. Many people worry that focusing just on finishing will lead to sloppy, low-quality work. This is a valid concern, but the solution is not to demand perfect quality every day. The solution is to separate the minimum completion requirement from the extra quality goal. You set a minimum bar that is easy to hit no matter what. That minimum bar is what counts as done. If you have extra time and energy, you can do more work to make it higher quality. That is a bonus, not a requirement. A low-quality completed task is better than a perfect uncompleted task. Consistency over time will improve your quality far faster than demanding perfection from day one. The fourth unaddressed question is whether you have to do this all on your own, relying only on your willpower. You do not. You can use external support to make it easier to stick to the rule. The simplest way is to find one other person who is also following the one must-do rule. You text each other every night to say whether you finished your task that day. If you do not finish, you agree to give the other person $5 or donate $10 to a charity you do not like. This small external pressure makes it much easier to avoid skipping days. You can also join a small group of people doing the same 100-day challenge and check in every day. You do not need a fancy system. Just a simple check-in with one other person cuts your chance of quitting in half. The fifth unaddressed question is whether this rule works for all types of people. There are two versions of this rule, and you pick the one that fits your personality. The first version is fixed, habit. You do the same exact must-do thing every day. For example, you run 15 minutes every morning, or you write 500 words every day. This works best for people who like routine, who hate making daily decisions about what to do. The second version is flexible task. You pick a new must-do every single day, based on what is most important that day. It can be work-related, it can be family-related, it can be anything. This works best for people who hate rigid routines, who have unpredictable schedules every day. Neither version is right or wrong. You just pick the one that feels natural for you. If you try one and it does not work, switch to the other. It takes between 21 and 100 days to form a new stable habit. 100 days is the safe timeline to make sure the habit becomes part of your regular routine, without you having to think about it. After 100 days of following the one must-do rule, your brain will stop fighting the habit. You will just do it automatically, like brushing your teeth in the morning. There is a well-studied effect called decision fatigue. That just means the more small decisions you make every day, the worse your decision-making gets as the day goes on. If you start your day by deciding which of 10 tasks you should do first, you already waste a big part of your mental energy before you even start working. If you already know what your one must-do is, you do not have to make that decision. You just start working. That saves your mental energy for the actual work, not for deciding what to work on. There is another effect called the Zeigarnik effect. That just means any task you do not finish will stay in the back of your mind all day, taking up mental space that you could use for other things. It creates a constant low-level background noise that makes it harder to focus. When you finish your one must-do thing early in the day, that background noise goes away. You feel clear and focused for the rest of the day, even if you do other smaller tasks after that. There is a theory called self-perception theory. That just means you figure out who you are by watching what you do, not by thinking about who you want to be. If you say you are going to do something every day, and you do it, you slowly start to see yourself as someone who keeps their word. If you say you are going to do something every day, and you skip it all the time, you slowly start to see yourself as someone who does not follow through. That image of yourself shapes every other thing you do in your life. It is far more important than any single task you complete. Changing that image of yourself is what changes your life. When you focus on just one goal every day, your brain automatically blocks out other distractions. This is how your brain is designed. If you have multiple priorities, your brain splits your attention between all of them, and none of them get the focus they need. When you only have one core priority every day, your brain will filter out any information that does not help you finish that task. You will be less likely to get distracted by social media, by useless emails, by extra tasks that other people ask you to do. Thought be asked. This naturally increases your productivity without you having to force yourself to focus. After a few weeks of finishing your one must-do every day, your brain starts to see this as something that just has to happen. It stops fighting the habit. It stops making up excuses to skip it. You do not have to rely on willpower anymore. The habit just runs on its own. This is how all long-term habits are formed. Most people think procrastination comes from being lazy. Research shows procrastination almost always comes from avoiding an uncomfortable feeling, like fear of failing, fear of being judged, or stress about the task being too big. When you shrink your task to a minimum that is almost impossible to not finish, you remove that uncomfortable feeling. It is very hard to procrastinate, putting on your shoes and walking around the block. It is very hard to procrastinate writing 100 words. The small size makes it easy to start, and once you start, you often keep going. But even if you do not, you still get to count it as done. 65% of new businesses fail within 10 years. Most of these failures are tied to the founder's mindset, not the product or the market. Most founders try to do 20 different things at once. They launch 5 products at the same time. They chase every new opportunity that comes their way. None of those things get enough focus to succeed. Founders who focus on one core thing every day, who consistently move that one thing forward, are far more likely to build a sustainable, successful business. This rule works just as well for personal goals as it does for business. You can combine this rule with simple tools to make it even easier to stick to. You can mark your must-do time as unchangeable in your phone calendar and set it to block any other requests for that time. You can use a simple app to track your streak of completed days, so you can see how many days you have finished in a row. You can even turn it into a simple game, where you earn points for every completed day and unlock a small reward after 30 days of consecutive completion. These tools are not required, but they can make it easier to stick to the rule when you are first getting started. You do not have to use any fancy technology to make this work. A piece of paper and a pen work just as well as any expensive app. All you need to do is write down your one must-do for the day and put a check mark next to it when you finish it. That is all. No extra steps, no complicated tracking. The entire point of this rule is to simplify your life, not to add another complicated system you have to maintain. If your tracking system becomes another task you have to do, it defeats the whole purpose of the rule. Keep it as simple as possible. Over time, this rule will change how you think about productivity. You will stop bragging about how busy you are and how many things you get done every day. You will start measuring your day by whether you finished the one thing that mattered most. That shift in measurement is the first step to real change. Most people go their whole lives never building that trust, that they will do what they say they are going to do. They start 100 different things and finish none of them. They look back at the end of the year and realize they did not make any progress on the things that actually matter to them. This rule fixes that. One small completed task every day adds up to huge change over 100 days. Tomorrow morning, when you open your to-do list, cross off every item except the one thing that will make the biggest difference if you get it done today. Write that one item at the top of the list. This whole step takes less than 30 seconds.